Hey everyone, Daniel Hoffman-Zinla here with Keenan Crow, our Director of Policy and Advocacy, and we are here to talk about our legislative updates. But before we get into all of the details of what's gone on this past week, we want to remind you about our upcoming Day on the Hill this Wednesday, February 27th. We're going to start the morning out at 9 a.m. registration, and that will be at the Iowa Historical Building, training from 9:30 to 11:30, walk up to the Capitol, lunch, and then rally will begin at 12:30. Check out details on our website for all the speakers, but one we really want to call out and are really excited about is Sam Brinton from the Trevor Project. So tune into all of the details on our website, but we're really excited about our speaker lineup, and we encourage you to come to any parts of the day, whether you want to go to the training, the rally, or spend time with your legislators. At the training, we will be providing talking points and all the details on how to call your legislator out. So if you are interested, come spend the day with us. It's going to be a lot of fun.
And I should mention that calling your legislator out in this context is not like call-out culture, right? This is actually true. Like getting them out of the chamber and having a discussion with them. It's not like yelling at them. So
good point.
Just want to be clear on that.
Thank you for the clarification. Well, this past week's been pretty hectic.
Yes.
A lot has gone on. So can we talk through a few of the bills that we've been very active in?
Yeah, so the RFRA, the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, what we've been referring to as a religious exemption legislation, this is the specific implementation of that piece of legislation. That went through a subcommittee on Tuesday. We were in attendance and we helped coordinate speakers and a number of other things, but it unfortunately advanced out of that subcommittee, and so we expect that it will be in the local government committee probably next week. It does have to clear that committee to be funnel proof when that funnel hits on March 8th. So we will be watching that very closely, and hopefully it won't get through committee, but if it does, we're not going to back down. We're not going to give up on this bill. It's a bad idea, and we're going to keep fighting until the very end on it.
Shout out to our allies on this bill. We had Greater Des Moines Partnership, Principal, among many other folks who
ACLU,
testified.
Interfaith Alliance, all sorts of folks were there showing their support and noting that this is not a neutral bill, that there are targets for this bill. And we heard a lot of homophobia and transphobia during that specific subcommittee, more than I probably ever heard during a subcommittee before. And so I think people need to be aware that this is targeting the LGBTQ community, but it's doing a lot more than that as well. There are serious public safety issues. There are serious economic issues at stake here. And so we need to be paying attention to this one as much as we possibly can.
Next bill is the sex ed bill. So do you want to talk about how that went?
Yeah, absolutely. So this bill is about what providers are allowed to submit grant proposals to get funding for sex education across the state. And I think one important thing to note about this is that the actual programming of the sex education stuff is dictated by those grants. Like Planned Parenthood doesn't get to just come up with their own curricula or anything. No matter who delivers that program is going to be relatively the same in its content.
Right.
Now, this is a competitive bidding process, right? And if we want the best for our kids, we really need to allow the best bidder to win on that. And that's essentially what I said during subcommittee. So I'll cut real quick to a video of what we had said, and then we'll come back.
We've already heard quite a bit about abortion today, but the bill before us isn't actually about abortion. The bill has nothing to do with providing funds for abortion. It has nothing to do with being pro-life or pro-choice. The issue before us today is about giving young people the information that they need so that they can make the best possible decisions. Young people deserve medically accurate and unbiased information about how their bodies work. And they deserve to have the best possible provider of that information. What this bill does is it puts the thumb on the scale in terms of who receives these grants. I think we can all agree that when it comes to our young people, we want the best of the best. A competitive bidding process that looks for merit rather than ideology is a tried and true method of getting us to that point. So I urge you to reject this legislation and let the best grant proposal win. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Keenan. So the next bill we want to specifically talk about is around the judiciary nominating process.
Yes, so that went through a House committee this week, and it was amended fairly significantly, I would say, to alter the way that the district nominating commissions work. Previously, they had a kind of a similar process for the state nominating commission and the district nominating commission. They were going to allow legislative leaders to kind of have input on all of those. It seems like they're backing off on the district nominating commissions and going a little bit more back to the old model that we currently have. And so that's awfully confusing for a number of reasons.
Yeah.
One is because they keep saying that this is about accountability and there's not enough accountability in the system. Well, I guess it's okay for the district judges to not be accountable, but not okay for... I don't know. I'm not sure what the rationale is on this, or if there is a coherent rationale on this, to be completely honest. But it is advancing. It is, at this point, unfortunately, funnel proof, and so this is something that we need to continue pressing on and keep a watchful eye on.
And the final bill we want to talk about, there's some things happening this week on the college campus free speech bill.
Yes. So there will be a subcommittee on the House side for the campus free speech bill. Once again, most of that bill is completely acceptable and probably even a good idea in certain regards. But that specific paragraph is right back in there in the House version that allows student leaders to discriminate. We want that out.
Yeah.
As soon as that's out, we are going to back off on that bill. But if it seems like nobody wants to remove that, then, I think the whole bill has to go.
Yeah. What we anticipate some bills being introduced, we saw Representative Liz Bennett post on her social media some exciting things. So what were some of those that she's hoping to introduce here in the near future?
So we were just talking about sex education funding and making sure people have the best information available, right? Well, Liz Bennett's bill is going to mandate that LGBTQ students are getting the best information available for them in a appropriate a way. So that's going to be a really great bill. I'm really excited for that one. And then also banning the gay and trans panic defenses. These are often defenses used in a number of contexts. Specifically here, we're talking about murder and assault cases, right? So this is a situation that can sometimes occur when people say, oh, I didn't know that this person was gay, or I didn't know this person was transgender, or whatever it is, in order to claim that they're not liable for the thing that they have done, whether it be seriously injuring or killing someone. It doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense from our perspective that just because somebody is gay or trans or whatever, that there is somehow a lower standard for charging somebody with their murder. Right. And so that's what this legislation is getting at. It's saying, no, if you kill someone, you don't get to just say, oh, it's because they're trans. That's not an acceptable thing to do. So really thankful for Liz for doing all the work and putting together that bill language.
And one final thing, so there's an important date coming up, which is the first funnel. Can you explain very quickly on what the details are related to that?
Yeah, so the Iowa legislature only runs for a certain period of the year, and so they have a system so that the bills that come in, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of bills that are filed every year, and they can't possibly focus on all of them. And so the funnel dates are essentially to whittle down the legislation so that we can focus on the things that seem to be the top priorities for legislators. So March 8th is going to be the first funnel date, and what that means is if a piece of legislation isn't out of its initial committee, so if it was introduced in the Senate, if it's not out of its Senate committee, or if it was introduced in the House, it's not out of its House committee. If it was introduced in both sides, it has to clear one of those two. If that doesn't happen, those bills are considered dead. Now, they can still be brought back through a number of different, rule changes and
amendments or that.
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of ways that legislative leaders can kind of bend those rules a little bit. But for the most part, the vast majority of those are considered like something that isn't going to be acted on. And it's often a good, approximation of the bills that aren't going to move anyway, because often the reason that something doesn't clear the funnel is because people aren't interested to make it clear the funnel, right? So most of the time, those things don't come back because there's not enough interest in them in the first place.
Well, these are all things that we will be talking to legislators about on our Day on the Hill. So come to our Day on the Hill Wednesday, February 27th. We'll be advocating for all these things and hopefully introducing some of these proactive things by then. That's the plan. But tune in next time, and we hope to see you at Day on the Hill.